type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss.
What's up, Slaughter Gang? It's your boy Ernest, aka the King Slaughter, back today with another video. Y'all just see my new intro. I hope y'all like that. I'm gonna use that for my outro as well, but yeah. So I hope y'all like that. It took me a while to make it. Crystal actually showed me how to do it, so big shout outs to her. If y'all want to go subscribe to her channel will be down below in the descriptions. We do another reaction video today. I know it's been a while. It's been like a couple of weeks, I think, since I did this. But we're gonna react to another one of Mr. Ballin's videos. It is called The Real Story of the Undead Army. So sounds kind of good. I don't know what it's about, so we're about to get into it right now. When I do my reactions, I don't watch the video. I kind of wait until I watch it with y'all, so we can have, you know, if I can have a good, you know, reaction to it, because I don't want to watch something and then go back to it and then have a fake reaction, if that makes sense. But if y'all have any videos y'all want me to watch or react to, it can be scary, haunted, funny, any kind of videos y'all want. Just make sure y'all, you know, hit me up on my Twitter. It'll be right here. Make sure y'all go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I will follow you back. And yeah, just let me know, you know, you came back from YouTube. You know, you found me on YouTube or something, because some people that be on, I be getting scams, like not scams, but like it's hard to explain. Like it be fake pages on Twitter trying to follow me. I just don't follow them back because I don't want to get hacked or something like that. But yeah, if y'all want me to follow, if y'all want to follow me back on Twitter, I'll follow you back. You know what I mean? I'll be good with that. Make sure y'all subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and make sure y'all give this video a like, and share the videos around. But with that being said, let's get into the video.
There is one war story that everybody needs to hear at least once. It is the crazy story of how this small group of Russian soldiers during World War I defended Auschwitz Fortress in Poland. It is both absolutely horrific and utterly inspiring. And I guarantee you, it's nothing like any other war story you've ever heard. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please sneak into the Like Button's house, take all their fresh eggs out of the fridge, hard boil them, and then put them back. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story. On the morning of August 3rd, 1915, during World War I, a 21-year-old Russian soldier named Vladimir Kotlinski looked out from behind the huge stone walls of Auschwitz Fortress in Poland. Out in front of him, he saw the same landscape he had been looking at for the last 6 months that he had been stationed at this fortress. It was a big, swampy forest that surrounded them on all sides. Additionally,
Before I get started with the video, the exploring videos are coming back, so don't worry about that. I know some people been hitting me up on Twitter, asking me, DM me on Twitter, you know, asking me why I haven't, why I stopped doing exploring videos. It's coming back. It just, things is in the works right now that I'm trying to get done behind the scenes of YouTube. But like I said, it's coming back, so don't worry. So you're gonna see me, CJ, Donald, and Steven. We're gonna be out here. We're gonna be finding some places around the areas that we can explore and bring the videos to y'all, so be ready to see that. Let's get back to it.
Swampy forest around them on all sides were dozens and dozens of trenches. Trenches are long, deep pits that soldiers will dig to both hide inside of when they're being attacked, and then also to launch their own attacks out of from behind their dirt walls. And these trenches that zigged and zagged all around Auschwitz Fortress were created by and now occupied by 7,000 German soldiers. And during World War I, the Russians were fighting the Germans. The Germans really wanted to take Auschwitz Fortress from the Russians. It was in a great strategic position with a railway passing right through it. There was also a river nearby and a main road, meaning whoever owned this fortress was greatly aided in moving critical wartime supplies and troops in a very hotly contested area. But despite the repeated attempts by these 7,000 Germans to take over Auschwitz Fortress over the past 6 months, they had all been repelled by Vladimir and the puny 900-man Russian force inside of the fortress. And so, by that morning, August 3rd, 1915, as Vladimir is looking out from the battlements over the trenches in the marsh down below, it was like both the Russians and the Germans had reached a sort of stalemate, where neither side was trying to attack the other, and neither side was leaving. They were just kind of staying put and doing nothing. In fact, over the last few weeks, there had been so little action from either side that the Russian soldiers inside the fortress got so bored, they began sneaking out the side door of the fortress to try to catch fish with their bare hands in the nearby river. But this morning, as Vladimir stood atop the wall, he noticed something strange happening in one of the trenches that was located closest to the fortress. It was still several hundred feet away, but he could see clearly down into this trench. And what he saw was there was this cluster of high-ranking German officers that were kind of huddled together, and they kept looking down at the ground at something inside of the trench that Vladimir couldn't see, and then they would look up at the sky and kind of wave their hands around, and then they'd look back down at the ground below them. Now, Vladimir had no idea what they were doing. I mean, again, he could not see what they were looking at in the trench, and when he looked up into the sky where they seemed to be looking, it just looked like a regular blue sky. But whatever they were doing, it was making Vladimir feel nervous. Vladimir was a young junior officer, which meant he was in charge of other soldiers, but because he was so new, he lacked experience and credibility, and so really wasn't considered a serious leader within the army. And so Vladimir, as he's watching this strange behavior, was concerned that if he left now and told his superiors that he was worried about the Germans because they were looking at the sky funny and looking at the ground funny, that it would make him look like he was being paranoid and not a good leader. And so ultimately, Vladimir just looked at this cluster inside of the trench and decided, you know what, they're not shooting at us, there's no attack happening, so whatever they're doing, it can't be that big of a deal. And lately, no one's done anything, so why would that change now? And so Vladimir left the walls of Auschwitz Fortress and went down below to hang out with his friends. 3 days later, at 4 in the morning, the Russian soldiers who were up along the Auschwitz Fortress walls keeping watch that night noticed something strange out in the darkness near where the Germans were. When they looked out, they saw that the dark night air almost looked kind of blurry or wavy, kind of like if you were looking at air coming off of hot pavement on a sunny day, it would look kind of blurry. That's what the night sky looked like to them. But of course, it couldn't be because of heat and sun, because it's the morning, it's cold, it's dark outside. And so as these Russians are looking out, not sure what to make of this blurry air, they began calling up more Russians to go have a look and figure out what this was. And over the next couple of minutes, as the Russians looked out from behind the walls at this air, they realized what it was. It was this huge grayish-green cloud that was as wide as the fortress was, and the wind was blowing it in their direction. Now, the Russian soldiers had no idea what this was, and so they just kind of stood there watching it in stunned silence. And as they watched, they saw as the cloud would touch any vegetation like leaves on trees or the high grass in the marsh, it would all turn black and shrivel up. And then the soldiers began hearing a soft thump, 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 thump out in the darkness. And it was the sound of birds dying and falling to the ground that were inside of this cloud. At this point, the Russians began to panic, and they began to run to sound the alarm to get the other soldiers up to prepare for an attack. But as they did, they began to smell this very harsh chemical smell coming into the fortress. And then before long, all the Russians could hear was the sound of their comrades coughing. It would turn out that strange behavior that Vladimir saw 3 days earlier of the German officers huddled together looking at the sky and then looking down at the ground and then back at the sky again, what they were doing was preparing for a chemical attack on Auschwitz Fortress. On the ground, out of sight of Vladimir, were canisters containing the poisonous gas, and when the officers would look up and put their hands up, they were gauging if the wind was strong enough and in the right direction to launch the attack. Now, 3 days ago, the wind had not been in their favor, but this morning at 4 a.m. on August 6th, 1915, the wind had been in their favor and they had released the gas. And this gas was quite possibly the worst gas you could ever come up against on the battlefield. It was a combination of chlorine gas and bromine gas. On their own, chlorine and bromine are very toxic and can kill you. But when you mix those two gases, it becomes exponentially more dangerous. The gas mixture binds to moisture and then turns the moisture into hydrochloric acid. Meaning, if a person who did not have a gas mask on came in contact with this poisonous gas, when they inhaled it, it would literally fill their lungs with acid, which would dissolve them from the inside out.
That's
and
crazy.
then also, the gas would get into their eyes and into their nose, and the acid there would burrow holes into their skull. And once you come in contact with this gas, there's nothing anybody can do to save you. You're gonna die, except it's gonna take a really, really long time. You don't just immediately dissolve. It's this long, drawn-out, excruciatingly painful process. By this point in World War I...
Yo, that's crazy. Like, who thinks of stuff like this? Damn.
Chemical warfare was really not being used by anybody, and so as a result, the Russian army did not outfit their soldiers with gas masks.
Is that a donkey with a gas mask on? Well, like the nose tube. Little nose, but and wouldn't it burn his eyes? Right? So wouldn't the donkey still die though? Because half the nose, like if y'all look right here, half the nose still out, and then the eyes. But it would probably go. It would go blind. You know what I'm saying? I suspect it'd probably go blind. Maybe, I don't know.
The German army did, and they
People
knew
are crazy.
The Russian army did not. So, as this horrific poisonous gas began permeating every square inch of Auschwitz Fortress, all of these Russian soldiers had nothing they could do to protect themselves from this gas. And so right away, soldiers began bleeding from their eyes and their mouths and their ears, and they literally began coughing up chunks of their lung. And so very quickly, the Russians inside the fortress understood they were being poisoned. And so these soldiers that were not as affected, at least not right away, by this gas, quickly began ripping off their shirts, dunking them in water, and wrapping them around their heads to try to limit how much they breathed in of this chemical. But it really didn't do much to stop the chemical. In fact, these makeshift gas masks might have made it worse because the gas would have bound to the moisture on the shirt. And so the Russians were totally doomed. They were surrounded on all sides outside the walls by their enemy, and then inside the fortress was this gas, and there was no ventilation in the fortress, and so there was nowhere to go. They couldn't escape death no matter where they went. And so Vladimir, he was one of the guys that was still on his feet inside of the fortress, and he stumbled over to this narrow window on the side.
And to think he could have stopped that when he seen him, but like he said, he was young and like he was inexperienced, so he didn't really know. But bruh, just picture you see your enemies standing there just looking up and down and putting their hands in the air. You like, yo, what the hell are they doing over there? And you could have prevented all of that. Like, I'm not trying to say it's his fault because he didn't know no better, but like it's kind of his fault, I guess. I don't know what y'all think, bro. Cause I don't know, but he could have stopped that.
the fortress walls, and he looked out and he saw all these Germans running towards them, firing their machine guns, artillery's being fired. I mean, he knows they are moments away from the Germans reaching the fortress door, coming inside, and killing every last one of them.
Dang.
But Vladimir's reaction to this was not being scared or being sad. Instead, he suddenly felt incredibly motivated. If they're going to come in here and kill us, then we're going to make it as hard as humanly possible first. Vladimir had a reputation for being totally fearless. Over the past 6 months that they had been under siege from the German army out in their trenches, anytime fighting broke out, Vladimir was always the first to run up and be right on the front line of fighting. And then several times when his comrades had been shot or wounded, Vladimir would run out into the line of fire to save the fallen soldiers. It was like Vladimir lacked any instinct for self-preservation. And so as the Germans continued their run towards the fortress, artillery shells are hitting the walls, there's constant gunfire, and Vladimir, he leaves his window and he marches back over to the open courtyard inside of this fortress where the 100 or so other still living Russian soldiers were. I mean, they're all gonna die. They've been totally poisoned by this gas, and it's just a matter of time now.
Shit.
But they're still on their feet, and Vladimir walks over to them, and even though, again, he's pretty junior, he stands up and he says to them, "This is our moment. We are all going to die. But what we do right now will define us." And the way Vladimir said it, he got those 100 soldiers who were on death's door to be so motivated so quickly that they rallied to him. And so as these men are literally bleeding out of their eyes, their mouths, they're coughing up pieces of their lung, Vladimir explained the plan. And then moments later, with Vladimir in the front, this gaggle of soon-to-die Russian soldiers charged towards the gates, opened the fortress, and began running out towards the Germans, screaming with their bayonets lowered. Now, the Germans on the outside fully expected that this chemical attack would kill all of the Russians, that taking Auschwitz Fortress would be super routine because when they walked in, everybody would be dead. And so suddenly to have the fortress open and have these men that are covered in bloody
Sorry, I gotta
rags and they're puking up pieces of their organs and they're stumbling forward like zombies with bayonets out, screaming like banshees. It scared the living out of the Germans. In fact, they were so quickly terrified by what they saw, they literally dropped their guns, turned, and began running back towards their trenches. And as they did, Vladimir and his dead man army began picking off the Germans one by one. And then after Vladimir and the dead man army ran out of ammunition, they just continued staggering forward directly into the thousands of Germans in front of them and began picking up dead German weapons and firing them. And then when they got up to the trenches where these retreating Germans had been so scared they had run into their own barbed wire, and so there's all these retreating Germans stuck on the barbed wire, the Russians just began bayoneting all these men that were stuck.
Crazy.
And so at some point, as Vladimir is doing this, a German soldier ran up to him and bayoneted Vladimir right in the stomach. He ran him all the way through until the barrel of the gun was right up against his stomach. And Vladimir apparently looked down at this bayonet, knew he had been completely run through, and he looked up at the German who had just stabbed him, who was still holding the gun, and Vladimir spit blood and lung tissue all over this German's face, and then just began screaming directly at this guy. And so the German was so scared, he just dropped the gun, turned, tried to run, and then Vladimir was back on his gun with the bayonet still in his stomach, shooting at the Germans. The Germans were so completely caught off guard and terrified by Vladimir's dead man army counterattack that even though they outnumbered the Russians 70-1, they failed to take Auschwitz Fortress. The main reason for that was the Germans who had escaped the counterattack and made it back to their trenches. They told the other German soldiers that the Russians had turned into zombies, literally, that they were undead, and so attacking them was pointless. They're already dead. And the Germans were so scared, they refused to leave their trenches again. Once the Russians could tell they had successfully forced a retreat by the German army, Vladimir, who was still alive at this point with a gun still stuck in his gut from the bayonet, he called out to the rest of his soldiers to retreat back to the fortress. And so this handful of Russian soldiers who were about to die, they hobbled their way back inside of their fortress, and then Vladimir gave his final command. destroy the fortress. If we can't have it, nobody can. Every single Russian soldier that came in contact with that poisonous gas died, including Vladimir. When the Germans did eventually take Auschwitz Fortress at a later date, when again, all of the Russians were dead, when the Germans went inside, they realized the fortress had been destroyed and it was no longer strategically valuable. Vladimir would be awarded posthumously Russia's highest military honor. His actions and the actions of the other dying soldiers that fought alongside him are remembered today in stories, songs, and statues all across Russia. $250,000. That's how much you all contributed to Dave Hartsock's GoFundMe page after we covered his story on our YouTube channel. Dave is the heroic skydiver who sacrificed his body to save his student. Now, because of that, Dave is totally paralyzed and fully dependent on his mother to take care of him. I spoke to Dave after all this money came in, and to say he's happy is such an understatement. I mean, this literally changed his life, and it's because of you. But as awesome as that is, our work is not done. There are other very deserving people that really could use our help. And one group in particular that really needs attention are the victims of violent crime as well as their families. And that is where the Mr. Ballin Foundation comes into play. Within days of the Uvalde Elementary School shooting, the Mr. Ballin Foundation sent $150,000 to support victims and their families. And going forward, we will continue to support them as long as they need support. This year, in addition to all the donations we expect to receive, our company, Ballin Studios, which is a separate entity, is going to be giving $1 million to the Mr. Ballin Foundation, and all of it will go to the cause. We are not taking any money for profit in Mr. Ballin Foundation. Truly, 100% of donations that go into that foundation go to the cause. And if you don't know this, that is very rare for most charities. Usually you got to pull money to pay for the organization. Not for us. It is 100%. You give money to the Mr. Ballin Foundation, it goes right out the door to victims of violent crime and their families. So if you want to join forces with me and the Mr. Ballin Foundation and genuinely make a difference in the lives of people that so desperately need our help, go to MrBallin.Foundation and click on Get Involved at the top of the page. Once there, consider becoming a monthly donor to the Honor Them Society. These supporters not only contribute to the cause, but also they get free gifts and exclusive invites to special live events. Again, go to MrBallin.Foundation and click on Get Involved to see how you can partner up with me and the Mr. Ballin Foundation.
Go check it out, y'all. I like Mr. Ballin.
So that's going to do it. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already, please sneak into the Like Button's house and remove all of their fresh eggs from their fridge, hard boil them, and then put them back. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. We have a podcast called the Mr. Ballin Podcast that puts out brand new podcast exclusive stories on Monday mornings, and on Thursday mornings we upload the remastered audio of our best YouTube videos. Again, the podcast is just called the Mr. Ballin Podcast, and it's available exclusively on Amazon Music. Consider donating to our charity. It's called the Mr. Ballin Foundation, and it provides support to victims of violent crime as well as their families. Monthly donors to the Mr. Ballin Foundation Honor Them Society will receive free gifts and exclusive invites to special live events. Go to MrBallin.Foundation and click on Get Involved to join the Honor Them Society today. We have 2 additional YouTube channels, Mr. Ballin Shorts and Mr. Ballin en Espanol. We also put out near daily content on TikTok, Facebook, and Snapchat. All of those channels are just called Mr. Ballin. If you want to get in touch with me, please follow me on any major social media platform and then send me a direct message. My user...
That's one thing I like about Mr. Ballin, because unlike some YouTubers, when they be like, hit me up on my social medias, no, Mr. Ballin will actually text you back. Like, when I tell you, when I asked him, can I react to some of his videos, I didn't expect him to, you know, to text me back, or to write me back. But he did. I was like, oh, I was like, damn, I'm surprised you wrote back. Like, he is a real genuine person. Like, I actually talked to him. But yeah, y'all make sure this is gonna be the end of the video. Y'all make sure y'all go check out Mr. Baller. I will link his channel down below. Make sure y'all go down to his fundraiser, his foundation, the Baller Foundation, and make sure y'all go donate if you can. If you can't, you know, understandable. Yeah, but I hope y'all like this video. Yeah, I should have another video coming out the week after next, I believe. It should be another one, Mr. Ballers, I believe. If not, I forgot which one it is. But yeah, I might do some reactions to like random YouTubers too, like I don't know, I can't think about it right now, but y'all can send me anything, like I said, scary, haunted, funny, things that you think is funny, things that you think I might think is funny, but I rarely be laughing at videos because, well, it depends what it is, but some videos don't be really that funny. Sorry, but if you think it is, send it my way. Make sure y'all subscribe to my channel if you are new. Make sure you hit that like button and make sure you go follow me. Why it's getting dark? There you go. Make sure y'all go follow me on my Twitter. I will follow you back if you're not a fake page. But yeah, if you're not a fake page, I'm not gonna follow you back. I'm sorry. If you're a fake page, I'm not gonna follow you back. I'm sorry, not sorry. But yeah, just let me know that you're, hey, I came from your YouTube channel. I'm just following you back. And I'll follow you back like that. But yeah, with that being said, this Slaughter Gang, I am out. This has been your boy Ernest, aka the King Slaughter. And I'm out. Peace.
No, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss.